Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thanks for tuning in and welcome. Read across the board, a lot of speculation and a lot of anticipation around the world, around the globe, and not only just the precious metals market, but in everything. Everything is under the microscope, and now more than ever is a crucial time to be subscribed to channels like mine that give you guys the daily dose, the inside scoop of where the markets are, what the prices are doing, and why they're affected that way, and also where they're going to be headed. Gotta be subscribed to at least channels like mine. And with that said, I put an opportunity out there, links in the description, to go over for 30 minutes. You can talk with me about your stacking strategy. You can get a second perspective, right? One-on-one personalized tips and advice from an investor in the precious metals and cryptocurrency, where it doesn't have to necessarily be you need to do this. You could just tell me, where your goals are, what your plan is. I can let you know if I think it's balanced or where I think, your strong points are or stuff you need to work on. Just more as like a friendly conversation to get a second perspective, especially when a lot of people are newer, just trying to get an idea of what their goals are and how to achieve that. So, links in the description. Is silver the next Bitcoin? This is the most interesting headline I've ever read for so many reasons. So many reasons. First, silver instead of gold. They're using silver instead of gold, which means they're noting they're implying that silver has more opportunity, has more advantages, and has more potential than gold. And Bitcoin is interesting because, as you know, or maybe know, Bitcoin has been rapidly rising, approaching $14,000, and that's because PayPal now lets you buy Bitcoin. So PayPal, one of the biggest, if not the biggest place where people use money, can now buy Bitcoin. So it's extremely accessible and convenient. And Bitcoin back in the day wasn't. You had to understand coding. You had to understand the blockchain. You had to understand how to decrypt messages and send, the mining pools. And it was too confusing for the everyday person. So a lot of money, the potential money wasn't there. But now it is, because all you got to do is click a button on PayPal and you have Bitcoin in your wallet. And back in the day when it hit $20,000 overnight, that's why it crashed, because it was overbought, it happened way too fast. But nowadays, if you look at the chart, it's been slowly, gradually approaching upwards momentum. So the price isn't going to hit 20,000 and just crash overnight. It's going to stay there. There's months and months and months and months of upward stability. This been slowly, gradually rising, and that means that the prices are going to stay this high. So silver and Bitcoin are in very unique positions. Silver going from $11 in March to almost $30 in August, then Bitcoin doing the unthinkable, actually coming back from the dead, as so many people deemed it, just a wacky, overbought metal that has no future. So I could go on, I can make a whole video on Bitcoin itself. And this is the thing, I've invested into silver for years, I've invested into Bitcoin for years, so I'm coming from an unbiased perspective. A lot of people that make videos like this to compare them only invest into one or the other. A lot of cryptocurrency fanatics will talk about precious metals and why Bitcoin's better, or vice versa. I've invested into both. I've made a lot of money with both, right? Made like almost $100,000 a couple years ago in Bitcoin, buying at $1,800 and selling at $20,000. I've made a lot of money in silver as well, buying silver $5-10, a lot of ounces. So it really is an unbiased perspective. So let's look at this. Let's look at their points and see where they're trying to go with this. So, with that said, let's jump into it. At the risk of offending Bitcoin or silver investors, I think this is a question worth asking. I have been researching and following these assets for some time. So in my view, it is not an either or dilemma. You should simply own both. And that's kind of the gist of this. And back in the day when I was investing into silver and Bitcoin, a lot of people especially the silver stackers on my channel, hated on me. Like extremely, extremely negative, nasty comments that I wanted to invest into Bitcoin. I just saw it made sense to me. A universally accepted form of money. It's like everyone speaking the same language in a monetary fashion, right? There is no U.S. dollar. There is no Chinese yen. It's Bitcoin. It can be traded in China, and it's instant transactions with zero to little fees on a blockchain that stores everything publicly. So there is no shadiness. Banks can't do shady stuff. Everything's public information. So I thought that was very interesting. And this is the thing. There is a lot of Bitcoin that's backed by gold and silver nowadays. Actually, a company keeps asking me to sponsor their thing. It's backed by gold and silver, and you can trade your Bitcoin in for physical precious metals, almost like ETFs or something along those lines. So, anyways, I think that diversifying into both is extremely. It just makes sense. I don't really invest into Bitcoin too much anymore. I'm focusing on precious metals, but it's definitely not a bad investment. So he says, I believe that silver and Bitcoin remain massively undervalued and that the market fundamentals of both these assets look extremely bullish. The point is, like Bitcoin, silver goes through massive rallies. Participating in them can be very lucrative. So let's review the outlook for Bitcoin, then draw the parallels to better understand what may lie in store for silver. And as I'm reading this, I thought of something. Silver and Bitcoin are both the rebellious assets, the rebellious investments, for so many reasons. Silver is the more volatile little brother of gold. It's like gold on steroids. It's like gold's little brother all amped up and running around the house. And that draws a lot of people away from it because it's too risky. And since it's an industrial metal as well, gold is just this safe haven metal that you can put your money into and you know it's safe and you know it's stable. Silver is not like that. So from that standpoint, precious metals in general are a threat to the U.S. dollar because they're worth real, they have real value instead of this fake value. So with that said, you can kind of get an understanding of why they're both kind of rebellious. Bitcoin's this new coin that it's very odd and unique and different. So they definitely go against the grain of a lot of people's investing. Their list or their way of they see investing. It's very different than the norm. So born from its modest 2009 origins, in the wake of the 2009 financial crisis, Bitcoin has come a long way, rising dramatically in value from its early days. 2008 2009 credit crisis or financial crisis also led to $50 silver in 2011. So a lot of stuff happened back then to kickstart some interesting ways to invest, to say the least. Today, its influence is not only undeniable, it's inevitable. Consider that U.S. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell recently told an IMF-hosted digital payments panel that 80% of its central banks globally are exploring the issuance of central bank digital currency, CBDC. He also said, we do think it's more important to get it right than to first be getting it, and right means that we not only look at the potential benefits, but also the potential risks. It also recognize the important trade-offs that have to be bought or thought through carefully. As for being first, Powell was likely responding to China's head start, where they already had testing in select cities and plan to launch their own digital currency later this year. So, I've been talking about this a while on my channel. If there was to be a new type of money, right? Let's say the US dollar just kind of collapses within itself. It's already lost 98% of its purchasing power. It's getting worse every day. Look at these third world countries. They're cashless nations. A lot of countries solely use Bitcoin as their money, and that's because their money has been so devalued, so oversaturated from massive printing. They carry their money, or they used to carry their money in trash bags, weigh their money in scales, because it's like the U.S. dollar having the purchasing power of like 5 cents. So if you went to the store to buy something for $2, you had to hand over hundreds of these bills. So It's just it's the way that the fiat system is set up too. Every fiat based system is going to lead to that. So if there was going to be a new currency, a new type of money, I think it would be Ripple. Now, what is Ripple? It's a altcoin. It's a cryptocurrency, but there's something very unique about Ripple. It's controlled by central banks. And you heard me right. A decentralized cryptocurrency is controlled or owned by a centralized bank. That is interesting, right? Because a centralized and decentralized platform have merged together, and that is where I think the new currency would be. So, digital versions of the traditional currencies not only mean it will be easier to create more, but also to control them more. Inevitably, lends further credibility to Bitcoin. There is no Bitcoin police, right? There is no bank of Bitcoin except for Ripple, I guess. So it's very individual, and they would have to. There's so many things still wrong with Bitcoin. Way too many altcoins. There's thousands upon thousands of altcoins. If they would have just had Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, it would have been cool. I mean, I get it. All these altcoins have a lot of different uses, and it's definitely making investing in just money, the value of money, and how accessible it is and convenient in very different ways. But from an investing standpoint, it should only be those three. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be created. That's a very small number for a global coin. And having happened, so there's not many Bitcoin left for takes, right? So that's why Bitcoin is increasingly seen as a safe haven, which used to be seen as the opposite of a safe haven. It has become more accessible through a growing number of cryptocurrency exchanges, and it has gained distribution through payment processors like Square, who recently bought $50 million worth of Bitcoin. PayPal. It's accepted by big name retailers, Microsoft, Starbucks, Whole Foods, while the list keeps growing. In Bitcoin, ownership is soaring. The number of Bitcoin addresses with a balance of $1,000 or more has just hit a new all-time high. JP Morgan recently said it expects over time Bitcoin will grow in popularity with millennials, and Kanye West just reiterated his support for alternative currencies like Bitcoin. And that's exactly these millennials. Everything's digital now. You go to the store, and this was before even the pandemic. Go to the store and look around and see if anyone's paying in dollar bills, physical dollar bills. It's not happening anymore. Everything's digital. Everything's a swipe of a card, cardless ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs. It's transferring through from phone to, QR code. It's all digital. The ways of the physical fiat currency is past, and cryptocurrency is the most digital thing you can get, right? So it does look like things could be headed in that direction. Let me know. Put that in the comments. What do you think about what would a new form of money look like to you? So much of what he said about Bitcoin is true for silver, and that's so refreshing to hear because it's so true. People sweep silver under the rug. People sweep Bitcoin under the rug, and now it's looking like these are the two that need to be paid attention to the most. It's not easily produced. There's a limited supply. And that's so true. Bitcoin and silver, not easy to produce. A lot of times, silver's hard to find. They find it by accident, looking for gold. Bitcoin is the same way. As time goes on, the mining pool or it gets harder and harder to find Bitcoin, and that's going to make it more difficult, in return more expensive. So, like Bitcoin, silver also goes through huge rallies which can lead to huge payoffs for investors. So there are a couple of different things between silver and Bitcoin. For one, the elites don't pay much attention to silver, and that's true. But I think, and it's a small market, and that's true. I think over time, once it hits around that $30-$40 range, some of the big people will come back. I just made a video a couple days ago about millionaires and billionaires investing into silver, Goldman Sachs, and a lot of different people, or Citibank calling for $100 plus Bitcoin. $100 plus silver. I think as people start to see the proof in the pudding, everyone's going to want to get a slice of the silver pie. So also, unlike Bitcoin, the supply of silver is not finite. It's pointed out previously, 28% of new silver comes from primary silver mines. 71% produced as byproduct, like I was just saying, is by accident when looking for gold. Here's perhaps one of the most interesting comparisons. According to Steve St. Angelo of the Rocco Report, at $1,300 gold and $20 silver, all the investment gold worldwide is worth 2.93 trillion. All mined Bitcoin so far is worth 240 billion, and the total investment silver market is worth 52. My main takeaway is obviously not to pit silver against Bitcoin, rather it's to point out their similarities and the opportunities they are offering going forwards. And that is where that's the most important sentence in this whole thing. Anytime you're investing in something, you don't look at where it's at now. You look at where it's headed. You don't look at where it's at now. You look at where it's headed. If you're about to buy some rental property or some real estate property, you don't look at the property right now. You look at where the property's headed. Is the neighborhood growing or decreasing in homes, or are they building shopping centers, tearing shopping centers down? Are they building malls? Are they building schools, tearing schools down? Because that will give you an idea of if the property value is going to raise or decrease. Precious metals and Bitcoin's the same way. Looking like Bitcoin is gonna grow more as time goes on, and same with silver. So, do you invest into both? Or do you just invest into precious metals? Most of my channel is silver stacker. So, if you are a silver stacker, would you invest into Bitcoin? Has this article or has all this stuff happening made you take interest, or are you solely against it? Are you against it? I'm curious to know all this because I used to have a channel called Crypto Slayer. It's now called Silver Slayer 2, where I had a second channel just like this one, but I talked about cryptocurrency on a daily basis. What's happening with the crypto world. But as time went on, just so many new coins were coming out. It almost just seemed like I was just talking. I was just saying words almost, because there's just too much stuff happening, too many new things, and too many new projects to keep up with, and it just got. It almost like it caved in on itself, right? But I could weed out some of that stuff and talk about, the important things like PayPal supporting Bitcoin, all the stuff that has to do with that and that nature. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you thought this video was educational, informational, or at least entertaining, make sure to smash that like button. I post daily videos. I'm going to try to put out another video today going over some serious stuff, right? This is some serious stuff that we're talking about today, and that's why it's so important to be subscribed. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.